Yeah, just to review, do you recall what the triad is?
The 135.
All right. Why are these notes significant?
Because they make up the chord.
Yes, they are the most basic chord that you can have. Is the one is taking the first, third, and fifth of a scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's say in the case of a major scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. If I take the 1, 3, and 5, if I play them together, it's called a chord. If I do it one at a time, it's called an arpeggio. But those three notes are referred to as the triad. And you have four different kinds. You have a major, a minor, a diminished, and an augmented. All right, so the major is 1, 3, 5. On the minor, you take that third note, lower it 1, get the 1 flat, 3, 5. On the diminished, you lower the 5 and keep the 3 flatted. So you have 1 flat, 3 flat, 5. And then the augmented, you keep the 3 in its major position and then raise the 5 a half step, and you have a sharp 5. Right, so all the chords are built on one of those four. All right. Now the note job, I think we might have talked about this, or I mentioned it before. Bass line has 3 jobs at the same time. Most important and first is groove and feel. You know that our job as bass players, as we talked about last week, is to make the music feel good. That's why everybody likes to play with us, because we do that really good, right? All right. And then the next most important element of a bass line is rhythm. The third most important thing is notes. The note job of a bass line is to outline the chord sound playing one note at a time, which means that the triad, because those are the notes that outline the basic chord, are going to be the necessary notes for any and all bass lines that we play. Even if we have a bass line that's like just a root note, let's say an eighth note kind of rock thing, if I went like 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and that qualifies because it's got the root note. All right, so, and then you could have 1 and 5, 1. Like Steely Dan, Ricky, don't lose that number. Right? Or you might have like 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. All right? You know this, right? Mm-hmm. So tell me to move on if I'm over talking stuff.
I like the recaps, are good.
Okay. So it makes sense that we know all the different ways that we can play the triads in a 1 octave range from a root note. So if I have let's say a root note on the 5th fret of the A string, I'd want to know all the ways I could play it. This way, this way, this way, and this way. Right? And that's what this does, is it gets all the possibilities of the major, minor, diminished, and augmented. Now the major and minor diminished are going to be the bulk of it, with major and minor being really 90% of everything. Diminished, you don't see that much. Are you familiar with diminished?
Not really.
Okay. Well, that sound is a tension sound in music. In the old cartoons where, now I don't know how much cartoons you watched as a kid, but you remember who Snidely Whiplash was?
No.
This may be before your time. But when I was a kid, all right, because I'm 61, so back.
Okay.
All right. So, anyway, this mean guy called Snidely Whiplash would tie this girl to the railroad tracks, right? And then the train would be coming down the tracks, getting closer and closer, and as that would happen, you'd hear an old piano in the background going. As the train got slower and slower. That sound is diminished. And then Dudley Do-Right would rescue, and they get happy major.
So those were all diminished?
Well, except for the last one. So, that's all diminished. See, diminished moves in minor third intervals. It's what's called a symmetrical scale. We'll get into that later, but
Okay.
in any case, that's a something scary is going to happen. That's diminished. Now, augmented, you will probably hardly ever see. It's one of those ones that's almost not worth practicing because you don't run into it very much. I mean, Duke Ellington used it in a famous jazz tune called "Take the A Train." The second chord of "Take the A Train" has a sharp 5 sound in it, where that's used. And there's occasionally it's in there, but it's just very rare. Anyway, so if you look, I'm gonna do a screen share. What are you seeing on your screen? Is it?
I have 2 screens. So I'm seeing you, and I'm also seeing the PDF.
Okay. So let me share what's on. What I'll do is I'll navigate this PDF as I go through this.
Okay.
Is it up?
Yep, I can see it.
All right, so the first one, you see section 1, the text at the top is stuff that I came up with, and it's a way to catalog and index this information so that you should know what section 1's, and there's 3 sections, section 1, section 2, and section 3. Kind of know what that means. In section 1, that the 3 and 5 are higher notes than the 1, so that they're just sonically higher in pitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, now, major triad and D root note. Now, left side position, you need to be aware of what happens in the position with how it relates to the section. So in left side